So today I'm joined by a man who is redefining the fitness space, the business culture, and the way we look at community. Peter Hull is the CEO and founder of Fitstop, which is a global fitness franchise. We started from a single tin shed gym to now having gyms across the globe. And I think the count's at over 150.
It is, yeah, 150, yeah.
With an annual turnover in excess of $60 million. But the most important part about this podcast is whether you are a fitness enthusiast, business owner, or someone chasing some big dreams, this is a podcast where you'll get really good insights into his journey. And before we go into that, all I ask is if you can like and subscribe to my channel. It just helps us bring more guests onto the show. So welcome, Peter.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I think when we started talking about it, it was all kind of rushed, but I really appreciate you taking the time out and kind of joining us today.
No worries. We're going for a drive.
Yeah, a really cool drive. So, it's 2025. We've just started the year. Something that I do, and I'm sure, you probably have your own ritual, and a lot of people kind of get into the start of the year kind of thinking, how do I set up my goals? What do I do when the year starts? Everyone's, new year, new me kind of feeling. What is your way? Like, how do you start your year? What sort of routine do you take?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. And I'll talk about my personal life. So I think that really feeds into what you want to achieve from a business standpoint. Myself and my wife, Beck, work in the business together. There's a lot of things that are intertwined with us from a personal and a business standpoint. The start of every year, we sit down. We typically like to do this on a beach.
Nice.
But we revisit our goal board. We actually have a bit of a vision board that we built out actually last year and redefined what our life needed to look like, what we wanted it to look like in the next 3 to 5 years. We built it out into a nice, pretty collage. It's actually my wallpaper on my phone. So it's my front of mind, my why every single day to make sure that we're constantly driving towards that. And it includes all areas of our life, whether it's, family, investment, lifestyle, business.
Yeah. So say someone's listening to this and if they wanted to do something similar, what sort of steps, like short steps, would you go through into that process? Like, how does it look at?
Yeah, I think the first step is, really simple way is open up your phone, go into your notes section. If you're a partner, share that note section with your partner, share notes. And then start to build out your life in a couple of key categories. So something that we always do is on an annual basis, where do we want to travel? We want something fun to look forward to. I didn't travel before I met my wife.
Oh, wow.
She took me to Thailand, to Europe. We've traveled to Japan. Every year we like to do an overseas holiday.
Yeah.
And it's something that makes us really excited to look forward to and experience a new culture. So we always break this out to where do we want to travel for the next 12 months.
That's very important to you.
It is, right. Yeah. It's something that also gets me away from the business. It makes me creative again and excited. We look at what we want to achieve from a family standpoint, a lifestyle standpoint, and we quantify that, and whether that's starting a family, additions to the family, even friendship circles, things like that. But and then we start to look at what fitness events we want to do. That's really important to us and our values as well. So we start looking at mapping out if we're going to run a half marathon, where it's going to be. Are we going to do a high rocks event? What Fitstop events are we going to participate in?
Yeah.
And then we start to look at the business. What are some of the goals that we personally want to tick off, and not necessarily business planning. That's done from a corporate level. But what do we want to achieve personally, whether it's a revenue amount, what other investments we want to make, how we want to diversify, whether it's property or...
Yeah. So, often I talk to people and, say you're an average person working a 9 to 5. One of the goals that people generally go with, okay, I want to get lean. It's very physical. Yeah. Then I want to earn a lot more money. Mm-hmm. But the way you've sort of described it now is very like family first, your fitness, your health, the discipline, like very discipline focused.
Yes.
Do you find that has now or is resulting to you being a better entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think something that I've definitely learned is looking at the bigger picture. I've got to do it for my why, not for what I want.
Right.
Definitely if I wind back the clock, 10, 15 years ago, I started as a personal trainer. I was a washed up athlete. You go through those phases. It's like, I want to be 8% body fat and, gain lean muscle and, hit my first 100K year or whatever it was, right? Like coming out of school. But I think for me now, it's really gone to bigger picture thinking and how do I want to feel?
Yeah.
Who do I want to be around? What do I want to achieve? And how will that kind of make me feel? Will I be proud about it? And then you can then back that up with the process and the little milestones that you need to be able to achieve that. Because if you say you just want to get fitter, okay, how am I going to get fitter? But if I say I want to run a marathon this year, okay, well, I'm going to have to build a process to run a marathon, and my end product is I'm going to be fit.
Right. Yeah. And have you been able to complete, say, whatever you set out last year to the year before to this year?
Yeah, there's definitely things you always revisit. And that's why as well, we have a vision board for what our next 3, plus years looks like.
Right.
And we're constantly driving towards that. And I'm someone that gets quite distracted by the shiny things.
Yeah.
So I think it also really helps me stay focused, and it's really taught me what to say no to. So it's like, is that going to drive me towards what my phone looks at me every day and tells me, is that my life in 3 years? If I say yes to this or no to this.
Yeah.
So I think it's thinking about that 3-year goal and having that mindset, but then also setting something quite tangible every year.
Yeah.
It's going to help me drive towards it.
100%. Like, I completely agree with what you said in terms of goal setting, having it broken down into family, your personal goals, marathon, etc. Like, I sort of set myself the same thing, and I completed my first marathon on 31st December with Danny, actually. So I did 42, he did 50. So I definitely agree. And I think with what you're saying, that once you tick off those hard things, because they're physically, mentally hard, everything starts looking a lot easier and feeling a lot easier. You feel better about yourself, and as a result, you're living an example of it. You become very successful.
Yeah,
as a byproduct.
No, I think like discipline is super important. And again, I'm someone that can get easily distracted, but I know how to put myself in the best possible position to try to win.
Yeah.
So my routine's super important. My eating patterns are super important. I've been fortunate to live and breathe the personal training life. So I take that into the culture, into our workplace, and then kind of, grow it from there.
So you said you're a washed up athlete.
Yeah.
So is that your motocross accident?
Yeah. So I raced motocross from when I was 6 years old until about 21, had 2 knee reconstructions within kind of 12 months of each other. And after the second one, the surgeon told my mum I should grow up and get a real job.
Okay.
So she was excited about that because, motocross is expensive, family was funding it. Had to learn real quick what I wanted to do with my life.
And you actually took that advice and stopped?
Yeah, so I didn't, I stopped chasing the dream to be a pro athlete, I guess. And that was kind of what I was always working towards, big picture, was, one day, can I do this? Can I, get paid to do this? Can I live my dream? When I couldn't do anymore, I started to teach. So I was coaching motocross so I could still ride a bike.
Yeah.
I actually did an apprenticeship as a motorcycle mechanic so I could work on bikes. And then I fell in love with the fitness side of it, went and studied to become a personal trainer. And then I guess I was a bit of a one-stop shop to motocross athletes. And that's how I started the brand. So Fitstop's name came from that.
Sorry, how did it? Sorry, Fitstop.
Yeah, so Fitstop in motorsport.
Okay.
So I was going to motocross tracks and setting up like a little pop-up activation station. I was warming up athletes. I had, nutritional advice. I took physiotherapists with me. And it was called, so my original personal training brand was called P2P, Power to Perform. My mum came up with it.
Cool.
And so it was called P2P's Fitstop.
Yeah.
Based off Pitstop.
Yeah. Cool.
And then as we grew the brand, so the first couple of locations in Brisbane were actually called P2P's Fitstop.
Oh, nice. And then you did a lot of athletes or people in the motocross space, or that you sort of attracted that crowd.
Yeah, my niche was, as a personal trainer, my niche was motocross and BMX.
Yeah.
I got to work with a lot of cool brands like Jet Pilot and now LSKD. There was LKI back then, or Loose Kid.
Yeah.
So I got to, Red Bull athletes. So I developed my niche in an area that really needed some support, and I could make a big difference in. And that's how I then learned business, and then learned how to scale it, and then kind of kept growing from that.
So how do you think that athlete mindset sort of helped you with your success?
I think it's a very big part of the success. I think to go into business, any business, you've got to be pretty resilient. I think most of the posts out there, talk about 90% of businesses, small businesses fail pretty quickly. The ones that succeed aren't necessarily the best ideas or the smartest people. It's probably the most resilient.
Correct.
I think in general, as an athlete, you're constantly, getting knocked down and you've got to get back up. You want something so bad that you'll do anything for it. And I think if you think about business in the same way, Even now as a CEO, my job is to get punched in the face most days. But it's how do I take that hit? How do I make a decision? How does that then support the company? How do we move it forward?
So a lot of the drive has, and the teachings, the discipline, and all that has come from that sort of background.
Yeah.
So that's your athlete sort of space. Obviously, I find that I personally find that a lot of other entrepreneurs that I've sort of talked to, you're probably the first like pre-athlete. But a lot of them have their family or like personal circumstances kind of create this urge, or this sort of shapes their mindset, let's say. Have you had any instances like that you find that your family or the way you were brought up defined how your mindset is towards business now, or how you created your community?
Yeah, I think probably a couple of parts to it. I think growing up in a motocross community was probably the biggest influence. It's a very solo sport, right? There's no one on the bike with you.
Yeah.
But there's a really nice community around it. So although you're chasing an individual result, obviously it's very family driven, but that's where all my friendship circle came from, was motocross. So you build this community out of the local club you go to, and then once you kind of start to become more successful, you're then going regional and then national and international. So you get to start to build these communities of like-minded people that are so passionate about one topic. My family did have a small business, and I got to see firsthand how they ran that business. And they did a great job of it. We had an awesome childhood, obviously growing up racing motocross. But I also saw that they were so dictated by the business. It never grew and scaled. They wanted to, I guess in some ways they really attached to it. And so I got to see firsthand. I remember always saying to my dad and my mom, like, "What, you guys should just work smarter, not harder." Like, I didn't even know what it meant, but yeah. But I got to see firsthand what it took to grow a business, to make money, to be obsessed about a P&L, to understand that you've got to employ people, you've got to pay people, you've got responsibility.
And how old were you at that point?
I think I was like, when they started the business, about grade 8.
Yeah, and you're looking at all these things and talking your dad about business and stuff.
Yeah, so I did a school-based apprenticeship with them. I did everything I could to get out of school, to be honest, and ride my dirt bike more. But yeah, I got to see firsthand that. And then I guess, another probably pivotal time for me was when I had my second knee reconstruction. I learned pretty quickly that maybe the way that I rehabbed the first time wasn't really appropriate for the sport I was doing. So I looked to really find what skill set and experience I could tap into to learn from. I found an amazing physiotherapist that worked with a lot of athletes that spent a lot of time with me. And he really then sparked, I guess, my interest in how I could help more people. I was watching him help me and all the time not charge me, and thinking, how do I pay this forward? He's doing this for me, I need to do this for others. And then that started a bit of a snowball around helping athletes, becoming a personal trainer, and then growing from there.
Yeah, so it's really amazing. Like the whole time that you've been talking about it, you're quite driven by the whole community aspect, whether it was in motocross and helping people. And it seems like a very core principle to yourself, which is now how you're sort of working on the Fitstop community and building that to having a lot of gyms across the country. So what does a typical day for you now kind of look like to when you were when you first started your gym? How do you sort of differentiate that?
Yeah, it's very different. So I've rewind the clock. I think we opened our first Fitstop, or P2P Fitstop, in 2013.
Right.
So I think it's coming into my 12th year being in this space. It's definitely not an overnight success. Started with 30 members back in 2013, and a lot of them were my personal training clients. And it's a very big transition you've got to constantly go on. But a day in the life for me at the moment is really looking after the team. And thinking about what's happening next. Like I said, it's a lot of problem solving, and that's probably what I'm best at. I'm not good at the maintenance phase, and that's a journey I've been on over the last 12 months, is understanding who I need in the business in Australia, and also where I need to be best positioned. I'm really good at the startup phase, problem solving, spending money, being okay to kind of test and fail and learn and move things forward.
And how important was that decision to kind of like go, okay, I need that experience from someone else versus me doing it all?
Oh, for sure. Like something I've done is definitely bring team members on almost too early. as a franchise group, I'll go back to early days of the franchise group. I think we were at about 12 or 13 locations, and we decided to raise some money for the first time just so I could employ a COO.
Yeah.
So we could invest in some technology. And yeah, for me, it's always kind of over-invest on the front end.
Yeah.
To make sure that we can drive support, prove out a system. And I know where I'm really strong at and where I need support and have opportunities. So the overall growth has been pretty wild to go from a wash-up athlete personal trainer to then now managing quite a large business.
Yeah. So how many staff work with you across your HQ kind of office?
We've got around 18 internal, and then obviously we offshore a lot of stuff as well. And then on top of that, we've got some really good vendors. So like our technology support vendor, marketing vendors.
Yeah.
But we've got a core team of 18, and that's spread across Australia and the US.
Right. And you're the CEO? CEO. And then your partner is?
So Beck leads franchise development. So we're in a bit of a transition phase at the moment. So where we've just hired a GM for Australia, and we'll both be going to the US to support the team there. So
you're moving?
Yeah, moving to the US. To really support it. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, we've really went into where we need to be positioned to get the most amount of growth. And Beck and I work really well in early stage of the business. When we can sit down with someone that wants to buy a Fitstop or multiple Fitstops in the US, and talk them through the journey to date, how we want to support them, what the vision is for the business. We get a lot of buy-in, and the US is a big play. We want to show that we're serious about it.
100%.
But also, again, the phase that Fitstop's in right now for the APAC region, we're not looking to, open 50, 60 a year that we were doing. We want that in the US. Right now, we want to be opening, 10, 15 a year. Really focus on network health, drive more revenue into these studios. And we've got a really good team in place to do that.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I've done a few classes of Fitstop myself, and I love the training and stuff. I'm an ex-CrossFitter.
Yes.
Too much injury. Perfect. I started doing that until I had my second kid, and I was like, all right, well, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and now I want to kind of go back into it.
Yes.
So by the sounds of it, you have a very good relationship with your partner, Beck, and, who together work quite deeply into the business. How important has a partner, like having the right partner, been in your journey?
Well, it's super important. I think what's been really incredible was, Beck's always been my number one supporter. Decided to jump into business originally. I was, fortunate. She had a great job. It was, well paying. We've also really focused on externalizing our other investments, so looking at property and things like that. But even going back to the very first location, she knew I was so passionate about training. I wanted to scale it, and and I floated the idea by her of opening my own gym and studio, and that I needed to sell her car to do it. I think we're maybe 9 months into our relationship at that stage. She supported and backed it. And that's been our whole relationship, has always been, really backing on my ideas, but also challenging them. I think you need a really strong support network, but you don't need cheerleaders. You need people that can really challenge you, take you out of your comfort zone, give you the harsh truth that, a team won't necessarily do all the time. So, it's been incredible to then, she stepped into the business. I think we were about location number 12 or 13. I convinced her that we could pay her enough to get her on board and afford her. She stepped out of her awesome career in recruitment, and then stepped into franchise sales, and has been there ever since. So, to go on that journey now to scale the business, and, it's an important one to then, it allows us to travel together, to work together, and to be quite agile.
And, a lot of times I talk to people, and one of the things that I sort of, you can say, but you can't say, sometimes like making that decision around your partner is very important. And, sometimes someone who's in their early 20s, busy partying, having a great time with lots of different girls and stuff like that, it kind of distracts you from the goal and the vision. Did you have anything like that? Did you find that, or you've been together for a pretty long time?
Yeah, we've been together for a long time. We met, I think when we were 22 or something. So, for us, it's been more, there was definitely those initial stages. It probably took us a year, maybe even 2 years, to really find our feet with how we worked really well together. And she's coming from a corporate background, and I'm a startup guy. So we needed to make sure that we could really collaborate on set things. But I think what's been really nice has been, we really understand the journey we're going on. I think growing a business, having my wife in the business, she can see firsthand what I'm going through, and then I can see her pain points.
Yeah.
So at times when I just went, all I want to do is problem solve it, and all I need to do is listen. But we really understand the emotion behind it, so we can be there for each other. I think it would have been a very different journey without her. And it can be quite an isolated journey at times, growing a business. So it's been really nice to have that.
And obviously, any business partner or partner as such, you're working together, going home together, no fights.
Yeah, well, I think it's always things you got to work through, right? And yeah, I think again, early days when she wasn't in the business, I would come home and all I would do was talk about Fitstop.
Yeah.
And I think that also, when again you're not in it and you're not understanding it, it's like, for what else is there? But I think being in the business, at times it's almost she wants to talk about it more than I do, and I want to try and switch off. So it's just finding that balance. And we go through peaks and troughs, all the time to find that.
Yeah, and I strongly agree with everything. I've worked with my wife before, and it is a strong bond. And if you can get along and you sort of move on with the task as you guys have done it, there's a strong journey there. But sometimes it can also be quite painful and stuff.
Sure.
And I'm sure any business owner who has a business partner sort of understands that feeling as well. But you also mentioned that you and her use property as a way to build your own personal wealth, which I personally believe is quite important. Not only is building a successful business, but having that whole personal wealth space to then achieve financial freedom independently.
Yes.
So what is it that you do in that space? How did it start? And how important do you think it has been to your financial freedom?
Yeah, look, it's something we've both been really passionate about. Again, Beck got me out of my comfort zone to travel. She also got me out of my comfort zone to buy and build our first house. So, we started in a really outer suburb of Brisbane. We started very early on. Again, she had a good corporate career. So fortunately, the bank would lend her money, not me at the time.
Oh, wow.
So again, really important to have that support network. But we bought a very small block in a new development and built a house on it. Used all the contacts I had to get it as cheap as we possibly could. I did a lot of the labor myself, but we just went all in very early, because we knew that outside of Fitstop and building a business and having careers, bricks and mortar was super important. She'd always had a bit of a dream of having a bit of a property portfolio and creating a future and a lifestyle that she didn't have. So we started pretty early on. I think we were 6 or 9 months again into our relationship.
Oh, wow.
Probably the same time I sold a car. But then since then, it's just been about, okay, what's our next stage of growth? So we sat on that for maybe it was like 3 years. We then sold that through the COVID boom. We bought then a property on the Gold Coast, an apartment. We turned that into an Airbnb.
Nice.
And then, we just have kind of kept trying to grow that portfolio.
Yeah. And in terms of someone starting that journey, like, obviously you said, you are a PT, but not much backing, not much, she had a good job. How did you save up the money, or how did that principle kind of go? What sort of disciplines did you have?
Yeah, I think, look, it comes all back to discipline. It's what you're willing to sacrifice. Again, I think at the time I was paying myself $500 a week. So we made sure, again, personal training background, you know how to eat well but not spend money. If you're on a bodybuilding diet, right, you're eating chicken, rice, broccoli, some rice cakes, some peanut butter, you're buying oats. I remember, we were doing grocery shopping and it was costing us $60 a week. And we were very, very fit. She was doing sports model comps at the time. I'm doing a number of different events. It's not that we always fueled ourselves very well, but it's just making those decisions. We weren't going out partying. It's just, I think in life, it's what are you willing to sacrifice to get to that next stage of your life? And, we still go through those phases today. It's just at a different scale.
So the principles were, just making sure that you were quite frugal and made sure you didn't, overspend on unnecessary things, to then build that saving pot to maybe start your gym. Obviously that came from a car, but to, buy the property and stuff like that. If you didn't do that, do you think it would have been possible?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think, I think it's quite challenging to live a lifestyle you want to live and then have all the things you want to have at a young age anyway. And I'm really grateful that we got out of our comfort zone and did that quite early. But also, it wasn't like we were buying in an area that we even lived in. We had to then drive 45 minutes away from where we were living. The commute into the city for her was huge. And for me to go to the first Fitstop, you don't need the house in the hot suburb. You need to go and out, and then, you know, maybe you get it 20K equity, maybe then you can sell that down, principal place, no capital gains, roll that into something closer and just keep going. You don't get the overnight success.
Yeah. And how, like, someone in their 20s listening to this,
Yep.
and, they look at social media these days. I was lucky back in, same 2013. 2013, there wasn't much social media as such.
Yeah.
So I wasn't influenced by anything.
Yeah.
How does someone who's in their early 20s build that discipline by, when they're at the same time looking at social media going, this guy bought this house and this guy has this Lambo?
Yes.
Is that like a personal thing that you kind of just have to figure out, or what's your advice to someone?
I think, one of the things I learned super early on, I guess jumping in the deep end to run a business was, I learned really quickly that you've got to pay your bills. So you need to be able to write a budget, write and read a P&L, create a P&L for your life, right? And again, there's so much influence now on the internet. Google how to write and read a P&L, jump onto AI, they will do it will do it for you. But you need to put some disciplines in place around where you want to sit financially. And again, it's not to say you need to go without and stop socializing and doing these things, but you have to choose how to do it and know where you want to get to. I think culture has shifted a little bit recently as well, where people want to hear about what you want to achieve. So tell people to help hold them accountable. I think, maybe 10 years ago when we were trying to do it and buy houses, it was like, oh, well, why won't you do that? Oh, don't worry about that, bro. I think now if you went and expressed, hey, I really want to buy my first apartment, but I need to save $50,000 and that's going to take me 18 months. I think you're going to have some cheerleaders around you. I think you're going to have people go, hey, that's awesome. Like, can't wait to see you do it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think these days people are more frightened to do that because social media makes it look like you have to look like you're doing well anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Coming back to business or even your personal sort of life, what has been the single most difficult day that you've had?
There's a fair few. I think the one that always stands out to me is COVID. Owning a fitness business, that was challenging. Again, when you're the founder, the leader, all the things. We were quite early in our business life. I think at that stage, we probably had around 20, 25 locations. Actually, it was 25 locations.
A lot.
And for me, I got into franchising to support business owners to achieve somewhat what we had. Before we started franchising, had 2 quite successful locations, was making money. I was still in the industry and I saw all these personal trainers just come in and wash out. And so we franchised because I wanted the managers to own them and then scale up. So when COVID hit and we got shut down, for me, my first thought is, I've got 25 business owners that can't make money. I've got however many members that can't train. What do I do to help them? And that was really challenging because again, it kind of steers me away from that kind of community and purpose component. But that challenge turned into, one of our biggest success stories. We were able to really support the network. We got amazing media. It was the first time we started to get media exposure for what we were doing. The way we built community really started to come to life and was exposed.
And that's the point that you created that app.
So we fortunately had raised a little bit of money about 9 months before. I was building our own technology stack. We were doing a rebrand as well at the time. So I just ripped everything within 24 hours and we launched an app, did a rebrand digitally, launched Fitstop at home, kept all of our locations, operating, our trainers employed, and we just went to war, but we did it for the right reasons, and we came out on top. We opened up post-COVID with another 10 studios, good to go. So,
and often when you're in that moment, how did you come up with that? Okay, yep, cool, we'll pivot to this, and this is how it was. Was that just like an enlightened moment? Like, how did you find that? Because obviously at one point you're sitting there going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then now, within a couple of days, as you said, 24 hours, there's this whole new app and it's, you found your purpose and kind of started.
I think like always bringing it back to your values. Like, am I making the right decision for the right reasons? I didn't sit there and go, oh, how am I going to make money? It was, no, how do I keep these things open? How do I keep my members moving? Our campaign was keep our community safe, keep them moving.
So instantly you went on thinking, how do I get them to working out? Which then resulted in that.
And then that resulted in huge exposure, media that we could never have bought. Really good franchise sales off the back of it. 2 of the best years of business I've ever seen. And I think because we did the right thing. I also love pressure. I love stress. I love I guess, that true entrepreneur, I want to problem solve. Give it to me. I'm not good in the maintenance phase. Like, even me in the business now, again, bringing a GM in because I want to change stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, throw me in the deep end and I'll work it out.
And obviously, you know a lot of successful business owners here in Brisbane as well.
Yeah.
Do you find that's a trait that's quite common? Like
Yeah.
loving that challenge and thriving off that problem?
Yeah, I think the problem solving component, I guess that's the entrepreneurial part is I can see a problem, I think I can do it better, let's go and do it and trial it. So I've got a good circle of influence around me as well.
Yeah.
And obviously it wasn't just my decision, it was, it was analysing the business, coming up with ideas, taking it to the team. I got a board of directors, there was a number of very heated conversations and then it's make a decision and go for it.
And how say someone who's a business owner, there's some of them who'll sit there and go, oh my God, COVID's here. What sort of advice or what would you tell someone like that to build that? Because it's, I often sit there and I hear some business owners going, okay, too hard, throw the basket, we're done. How does someone build that resilience or that mindset around, okay, it's just a problem, we're going to fix it and kind of move on?
Look, I think it goes back to some real basics. What's your vision, mission and values? Why did you get into business in the first place? And you don't need a pretty document. We've changed ours a bunch of times. But if you really know your why, especially if you're a founder, if you know your why, then you can rally a team around that and you can solve any problem. If you've started a business without a why, or your why is to make money, then you're going to have a million problems and you're going to lose a lot of money.
I have a similar sort of story where, we have retail stores in Perth and COVID hit and we're like, okay, cool, it's great because everyone's in stores. But the first thing that we sort of went and did is, no, it's not safe for our staff, because at that time, no one knew how bad COVID was. So we instantly closed all our stores, which is a big hit on your top line revenue. So forgetting that, but always putting people first. And at the back of it, our website just went crazy. So as you said, if you do the right thing, it always kind of comes back.
I think, something I've recently done is, how are you also building up your resilience? It's one of our values in the business, but I think, fitness does that for you. I think, training at Fitstop, you're putting yourself in a challenging situation. You want to take yourself out of your comfort zone. And, part of our training methodology is, we generally train in teams of 2 or 3, you're going to be spotting each other, pushing each other. And as we know, unless we're kind of, stretching and challenging, you're not going to be changing. So, you do need to add that extra 5 kilos on the back squat if you want to get better and hit a PB, right? You do need to get that heart rate up a bit higher. I've also been cold plunging in the mornings. And just feeling that additional pressure, that shock, and most importantly, probably slowing down that reaction. That's definitely helped me from a mindset. I'm typically someone that will half listen to someone say something and instantly go to solve the problem, finish, their statement, let's go. And I think when things are coming at you, especially now running quite a large franchise, our business owners are the business owners. They're in business for themselves, but not by themselves, which means anything that changes, we've just done a massive tech update. We changed from our IP that we built out through COVID onto now a third-party system. That was huge, right? But we've now got 160 plus business owners, that have gone through that process. There's a lot of change. You've got a lot of things coming at you at once. You've got to be able to sit back and then dissect, okay, what's burning, what needs urgent attention, and then what do we need to push down the pipeline? So I think developing your own resilience around that's important.
Yeah, very important. So how many, you cold plunge, you do some marathons and stuff like that. How many marathons are we talking about?
No, so I do half a marathon a year. So I haven't done a full yet. It's on the list. My vision board is to get really good at Ironman.
That's awesome.
I'm terrible. So I've been doing Olympic distance. So every year I try to do Olympic distance, try a half marathon, and then one other fitness event. And then outside of that, I'm in Fitstop, 4 days a week. I run, 2 or 3 days a week. Cold plunge, from home most mornings.
So you're definitely physically pushing yourself because, and as you're finding that it just helps in your day-to-day sort of life so much more. And, for anyone who's kind of listening and thinking about how do they cross that bridge on doing hard things and constantly, procrastinating on those things, just start doing, going to the gym, even
go to the gym, go to the gym, build a routine for yourself, develop discipline. But if you're not self-accountable, then you're not going to drive business growth. I'm only accountable to myself. That's what I have to answer to every single day. So if I get up and snooze and don't cold plunge and don't go to Fitstop, have I started my day right? Have I achieved anything? What else am I going to say no to?
Yeah, correct. So, we'll talk about your franchises and PTs in general. I often find that there's a lot of PTs out there who are, they just finish their PT course, they come out and they want to start a gym. It's like the dream for every PT out there. And then they open the gym, take a big loan, sign up leases for 5-6 years. There's little upfront cash involved because the equipment is financed, the lease is per month, so they don't really feel it until a bit later. And then we find that they fail. What's your advice to them, or someone who's looking to sort of start a little business, whether it is a fitness studio or end up with a franchise like yourself?
Yeah, I think you've got to develop your own skill set, that 10,000 hour rule. I don't think you can come out of anything and expect to be the expert. I think that, again, that's the pain point of social media. Launched a business, overnight success. I think, again, I just can only speak to how I did it. And it was, I went and studied to be a personal trainer because I wanted to stay in the athletic space. So I already had a why. I didn't go into it going, oh, well, maybe I'll work at Good Life or Revo or somewhere. It was, no, I wanted to work with athletes. So I was already on the front foot. I was thinking about my end goal, not kind of stage one. And then when I started to work with athletes, it was, who do I need to learn from to really refine that and get them results? So I started to get those athletes results, learning from S&C coaches, physiotherapists, studying dietetics, like building that out. And then it was, okay, how do I scale this? So it was every single stage was built out so I could get to scale. So I think
just put my belt like that, so you just like clip it over. Sorry.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
sweet. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So I guess over the course of a couple of years, built out these stages and phases, and I didn't really rush it. Again, I asked my wife, she said that I just messed around for 2 years. I was fortunate. I got to travel the US a lot. I got to work with a bunch of really cool people.
Oh, so that's when you were doing the athlete stuff?
Yeah. Traveled the US, drove motorhomes, went to racetracks, did heaps of cool stuff. But really developed my craft, my own brand.
So you're saying to that basically it's just an average PT, rather than just going out there and finding a big box gym and becoming a PT there. First, understand your why. Like, why is it that you want to do it, so that you are different from the 1,000 others?
Yeah, for sure.
And say you figure that out, then how did you how did you take the risk on going, okay, I want to open a studio now?
Well, I think for me at that time, it was a bit calculated. So I had around 30 clients, reoccurring revenue already. I was running some boot camps. I tested the waters. And then I didn't go all the way in. I sold my wife's car, did those things. I did go and sign a lease, but I signed a lease in a smaller building that didn't have all the exposure. I didn't go and spend $100,000 on the equipment. I tested it, and then from there we really scaled. I think, though, I do think the market has changed a lot in the last 10 years since I do that. I don't think you can run a business that way anymore. I think the world expects more from their service in the health and fitness space.
Like how?
I think, so when I think about it now, if I had my time again, what would I do? Firstly, I would look at, do I think I've got a business model that really is different from anything else? And I think in 2013 I did. But when I think about it now, whether it's Fitstop or another brand, there's models you can plug into. And I look back and go, I know the royalty fee we charge. I spent a lot more on that than that to build my brand and my business and to try to make some money in the first couple of years. I think exploring franchising is a really, really good option for anyone looking at a fitness business. But if it's not a franchise, you need to be holding yourself accountable to that same level. So it's like, what product am I going to offer to the market? What is going to be my point of difference in a program? How I'm going to write that program? How I'm going to attract the member? How I'm going to write a business blueprint? What's my marketing campaigns going to look like? What does my fit out need to be? I think there's a lot of moving parts you've got to dissect. But again, would I go and study and then jump straight into that? No. I would go and want to be a group fitness trainer somewhere and have another job. I'd then want to try to get a manager's role maybe, and I'd want to blow that gym up and set it on fire, right? Like, I want to get 400 members in a group train. I want to refine my sales craft, my management skills, the back end system. And then I'd go, cool, I've built all that out. How do I buy in? Is it starting my own thing? Is it buying into the franchise? Is it buying into the current franchise I'm working at? Ask those questions. Don't just sit back in the passenger seat.
Yeah, and I completely relate. I completely agree with that. So when that, like, why do you think there is a lot of PTs who then end up fail? Like, is it just because they don't do all of those things, or is it because they maybe focus on the money or fame?
Oh, look, I think being a personal trainer, there's a bit of a honeymoon period.
Yeah.
I want to be a personal trainer. I can charge maybe $100 an hour. If you're in the US, 400, 500, whatever. And yes, online coaching, can bring a lot of success. And if that's your niche, do it, nail it, build a huge social presence.
Yeah.
Do it. But if it's, I want to be at a physical gym and a physical personal trainer, there's a big difference between being passionate about being a personal trainer and a business owner. And that's the journey and the stepping stone I had to go on. It was almost like, be the personal trainer, be the manager, run a business, report on a P&L, have structure, get a coach, all those things, and then jump into it. The gap is too large from passionate trainer. All they care about, I'm that person, was writing the program and taking you through a kick-ass workout and getting paid my $100. There's a big gap then between managing a business.
So like, I think on that, like with the, a lot of people, they reach out to yourself as a franchise or any other franchise, and they get put off by, the upfront costs involved.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't realize the impact that, or the lessons that they're sort of trying to learn on the way.
Yeah.
So, I'm aware I don't want to make this a sales pitch or anything like that, but what would you say to someone who comes to you and says, "Oh no, it's too expensive. Like, I'll just do my own thing," kind of thing?
Yeah, look, I think again it goes back to looking at the business blueprint and the P&L. It is easy to sit there and say, "Well, I can do my own thing and make my own money. Show me then." Like, and I'm happy to coach anyone through it. Like, that was me, right? So I wish you nothing but the best.
Right.
Whether it's Fitstop or some other group, it's a proven system that's been proven time and time again. And obviously there's high performers and there's low performers.
Yeah.
There's everything in between. But if you can take your passion around the fitness product community, you enjoy our training, like if you came to Fitstop and wanted to buy a franchise, especially if you're a personal trainer, but you're like, "Oh yeah, but look, the product is a bit off, and like, I actually really love doing this training and I wouldn't train it if we're not for you."
Yeah.
Right. So I think, and that's why we do attract a lot of people that are coming from the fitness space. They come and try at Fitstop.
Yeah.
Maybe they've been a personal trainer, a CrossFit athlete. I really love the training. I can see myself doing this. How do I make money from it?
Yeah. And I think it's also like how much you guys invest into the network kind of thing to then give back to your franchises, and all that learning is kind of taken out for that person who wants to start fresh.
Yeah.
And, it's just personally, I've invested in a few franchises before, and I feel like as a 22-year-old, it's probably worth exactly how you said, which is go work, really kill it as a manager role, and then kind of look into a franchise model rather than also starting at that point yourself, because it's hard. Like, being a business owner and a manager is like two different things.
I think also like, and whether it's Fitstop or someone else, but just making an inquiry to understand the franchise model.
Yeah.
It's our job to build out the tools that you need. We don't do the work for you.
Yeah.
But when you go through that process to looking at buying a franchise, you start to build out a P&L. You start to understand the costs associated. And on paper, it might look expensive, but that's actually the reality.
Yeah.
If I look at building any business, there's no additional costs outside of, yes, we do take a percentage of revenue that comes back to the franchise, but this is building a genuine business that's going to be compliant with your local council, that's going to meet regulations, that's going to operate and hopefully make you profit.
Yeah.
All these things have been thought out. Then even if you take some of that learning away and mold it into your own business and you're successful, great.
Yeah. Cool. So, you had, how many personal gyms did you have before you went to franchise?
2. So we started in Redland Bay, outer suburb of Brisbane. We actually moved that. So that was like a 100 square meter shed. We moved that to Victoria Point. And then 2 years after that, we opened in Morningside, another suburb in Brisbane. And then a year after that, franchised it.
And how did the whole franchise idea come up? And how old were you at that time?
Old, I think I must have late 20s.
Yeah. Cool.
Late 20s, maybe 26, 27. So when we opened the second Fitstop, I had a manager in the first one. I managed the second one.
Yeah.
So Morningside got that up and running. Again, I love to get amongst it.
Yeah.
So I jumped into the second one, started to grow that. We advertised for a manager. Manager came in, employed the manager. After a week, he turned around and said, how do I own this?
Right.
And that was kind of the next stage of the journey. It was, we looked into then, okay, do I do a JV, joint venture, with both my managers? Do we scale it that way? I met a few people that had been in franchising, proven success.
Yeah.
And again, my why at that stage, 2 locations, not knowing what it was going to take to build a franchise of this size, was purely that, I've built a business that's quite attractive, 2 managers to buy in, to have their own business, to drive their own revenue, and to create the success I have. So again, a bit naive here, but I actually franchised it and sold the first 2 studios instantly to the current managers. So no real revenue coming in then for me.
True.
Because then we're taking royalty only.
Yeah.
So for the first year, it was, we used the capital that we got from selling those 2 businesses, didn't take it personally, Beck loves that, threw it back into the businesses, and then started to drive growth. And then as soon as we announced that Sam Seaton, he's still the owner of Morningside, had bought it, another member came up, I would have bought this, what else can I do? So then we opened the first real franchise.
And it shows that the brand is so strong, and what you were doing at that time was quite impactful because, and successful, because, they wouldn't have bought it if it wasn't sort of making money. With the pandemic, we've had a bit of a change. We've probably seen a lot of gyms close down as well.
Yeah.
There was a big boom in online fitness. And then now we've also seen some big box, cheaper model, sort of low cost gyms starting to come out a lot. How are you finding that you're being competitive in that space? Or what are you guys, obviously, you've got your apps and stuff, but why? It's a very difficult market now. How are you guys leading that space?
I think it still, again, comes back down to the core values and the product that's within Fitstop. We've always really lent into the fact that we're a personalized service in a group environment. And yes, you can go and get a cheaper membership, but what you're really buying at Fitstop is a program that's supported by a community, held by an industry-leading trainer. So when you step into a Fitstop session, it should feel like it is almost a personal training session with your mates. You're taking all the guessing out of it. And I think what people want right now is fast tracking their results. They also want to feel connected to a group and a community. They want to create a social network. And when you look at some of the industry trends right now coming out of the US, the top 2 trends in fitness is social fitness and strength training. And so we're really in that kind of nice niche right now to capitalize on that. Obviously, there's been economy changes that have definitely brought some challenges in. But I think if we keep adding value, then we're going to stay quite competitive in market.
And do you find that now the business is in a point where the way I look at it, and you look at macroeconomics and finance and stuff like that, once interest rates sort of start coming down, people start getting a bit more disposable income. Do you feel that's going to positively impact you guys, and people will have more money? All the studios will start having a little bit more memberships. How do you guys study that? Is that something that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a great CFO, global CFO, super experienced, come from another number of large businesses. And we are modeling that. I guess what we communicate though directly to our owners and our managers is, doesn't matter what's happening externally, we can only control what we can control, and that's the internal environment. So how do you make someone feel every single day when they walk in? Because although yes, we're a higher price point, anywhere from kind of $50 to $70, depending on your region a week, that's a lot of money. We also still know that people are buying a coffee a day. They're still choosing where to put that money, but they're being very selective. So if you're not showing value, they will leave you. And that's the difference. So when we look at attrition rates across our locations, and we can see some upward trends, they're instantly going to, what's our product like? What's the value member proposition like? Let's get better at that.
So then basically what you're saying is, yes, it is a tough economy, whatever, but people are buying and they're just choosing exactly what they're buying. So perfect. With regards to future growth for yourself personally, one, and then for the business, what's your personal sort of, say next 2-3 year goal look like?
Look, for me, I constantly go through like where and who do I need to be next, and then how do I seek that information. So at the moment, I'm trying to really learn from CEOs that have been able to scale business, founder-led great, but who can I surround myself to learn from? I've got a really good mentor at the moment that I've just joined that group. So it's a one-on-one mentor, but it's also in a business forum. That's been really exciting for me. And again, just a good way of getting me out of my comfort zone. And that's something that I've always done through different phases of growth. So how can I really grow up and lead as a CEO globally?
And have you always had a mentor?
I've gone through different phases. I've always found mentorship, leadership, or support in some way, shape, or form. Whether that was direct one-on-one paid mentor, or different groups, or whether it's just having that personal accountability to reach out to the right people, once a quarter and get a coffee. I've always got a hit list of who I want to meet for the year. So, there's always been some sort of growth there. I think that's needed. I'm not someone. Yes, I listen to podcasts and do those things, but I need to sit with someone, learn directly, and then try to implement. I am also someone that will go and seek the information I need for the space I'm in. I try not to just listen to a podcast on repeat.
And then just do it.
Because I just get distracted.
So,
but if I'm like, I need to refine my leadership skills at the moment. I need to learn from these people, and then I just obsess about that. So it's that next stage of growth and growing up. Big focus on the US. Like I said, my wife and myself are moving to the US. Big focus, want to get the first 50 sold. So we got 5 open over there.
Oh, wow.
They're performing really well. We signed one on Christmas Day.
Oh, shit. Working on Christmas Day.
It's all part of it. And again, wife and I work in the business, so we're both there, making sure it can happen. Obviously, it was the day before Christmas Day for the US, so we needed to get it done. But we're really excited about that and excited for that next phase of the journey.
Cool. And the business, so the key focus is 50 sort of gyms across the US, and sort of have all the operations here sort of run by a new team kind of.
We want, again, we're really in that kind of growing up phase for APAC. It's a big focus on network health. We've got some business objectives that we really want to nail. How do we drive more revenue into our studios here? And we've got a really good team that's going to execute that. The US is fast growth. How do I get the first 50 sold to the right people that want to scale aggressively?
Yeah, cool. And what's your one piece of advice that you would give someone in their 20s?
Be very coachable. I think I've always tried to listen, learn, lean in, and then action. Be super coachable. You don't have to have the answers. Don't have the answers. Ask more questions. And then don't want to be an overnight success. Good, like if you are, great. Awesome. Love that for you. But just play the long game. I've been in this space for now 13 or 14 years. And have loved every year of it.
Cool. Thank you very much, Peter. That was an amazing podcast. I really appreciated every moment. I enjoyed it as much as I'm sure Danny would have right now. So thank you very much. And make sure to like and subscribe below to sort of listen to more podcasts like that, and make sure you follow Peter as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.